Welcome back to another episode of the Ian Fritts Show. This is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it right here above me. Boom. Ohio State at Penn State. This is a week that a lot of you mainly up in the northern part of the country in Ohio, Columbus specifically, and Penn State, State College, Pennsylvania. You guys have been looking forward to this week since the last time you guys played last year. The anticipation for this game has been huge, and it is huge this week. It will only get bigger throughout the week. It's a Monday, but this anticipation is going to go like this throughout the week. I'm already excited for this game. It's a shame on the networks, specifically Fox, for this game being at 11 a.m. Now, I love an 11 a.m. kick. However, we were robbed of a whiteout for Penn State for Ohio State. This should have been a whiteout game at Penn State. I'm calling for it. The whole world is calling for it. And Fox is like, we're going to screw ourselves and make this an 11 a.m. kickoff. Enough about that. If you're new here, what I do is I pick every single top 25 football team's game that weekend. I pick it against the spread. The record is right there, 96, 65-1 this year. Very good year. I apologized in my last video for last week's record, which was abysmal. It was an outlier. You know, every year there's an outlier. For a lot of teams, for a lot of people, the outlier is doing really well. For me, the outlier is doing really bad, really poorly. So I feel like we're going to bounce back this week. And I don't want to knock on wood here. I don't want to jinx myself too much, but I feel a bounce back week coming. And you're probably thinking everybody feels a bounce back week coming after they just go 4 for 11. Okay. So enough about that. We're going to talk about Ohio State, Penn State right now, because this is the game of the weekend. There are a couple other games I'm going to get to in depth here, like Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, South Carolina. Those are the other two games I'm kind of really looking forward to this weekend. But look, I mean, it's Ohio State, Penn State is the biggie. Okay, everybody knows that. I know it. You know it. Let's talk about it. Look, I said it in the latest video. What's going on in Columbus, Ohio right now? Is Ohio State okay? What's the temperature there? Are they ill? I think they're ill, is basically what I have discovered by watching them play football. And to be honest, watching them play football hurts my eyes a little bit. It hurts my eyes, specifically offensively. I'm just a little confused as what they're trying to do. They can't run the football very well, very effectively at all. That leaves them one-dimensional. They have a superstar freshman wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, and they think we're only going to throw him the football a couple times a game when he's probably their best player. Not an understatement at all. I'm not sure what Chip Kelly is thinking heading into the football game. I'm not sure if this is coming from Ryan Day and he's thinking, hey, we're going to try to run the football a couple times. If it doesn't work, immediately abandon it. Immediately. We have 2 superstar running backs. Doesn't matter. Immediately abandon them, and we're just going to twiddle our thumbs for 4 quarters. That's kind of what it looks like from an outsider's perspective, okay? I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm not a Penn State fan. I'm just an outsider, unbiased, looking at Ohio State, looking at Penn State, looking at these teams play football. In Ohio State right now, a little confusing, and by a little, very. The defense, however, continues to be really good, okay? And we knew that coming into this year. The defense was going to be really good. And I know they let up 32 points or whatever it was against Oregon a couple weeks ago. Oregon's got a really good offense, okay? You're not going to hold Oregon to 10 points. And if somebody does, they probably win. And they probably win big against Oregon because you're not holding Oregon to 10 points. What they did against Oregon, a little lackluster at times, but the defense is still solid. That's not what I'm worried about if I'm an Ohio State fan, okay? The offense makes me sick. It makes me sick with all the talent. You got the most talented roster in America. Millions and millions and millions, maybe billions, who knows, of dollars poured into that roster offensively and defensively. And the return on investment, ROI, it's a business term for you business folk out there that do not know what that means. I'm not entirely sure. Return on investment right now is not great offensively for Ohio State, okay? You got Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. This guy, you paid high dollar for this guy. Up to this point in the season, been a little quiet. Now, is he a solid player? Yeah. He's not been as loud as you want him to be, okay? Same for Travion Henderson. You've kept him You've kept him there at Ohio State since he was a freshman. Superstar. And it's been kind of quiet. Coming into this year, it was, man, these two running backs are going to run circles around everybody they play. I mean, it is going to be incredible. You know how Detroit Lions right now, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, NFL equivalent, kind of thought that was going to be what this Ohio State Buckeye offense was going to be built around. They got Sonic and Knuckles up there for the Lions. That's what they're naming those two running backs. It was going to be Sonic and Knuckles for Ohio State this year, and it's been kind of half of a Sonic. Okay, it's been a little lackluster, a little underwhelming. They have to get the run game going, and they have to do it Saturday morning. Was about to say night, but again, Fox robbed us. Shame on you, Fox. Now, we're going to talk about the team they're playing, a team that is ranked ahead of them. You're thinking, Ian, well, Ohio State -4. They're definitely ranked higher. Wrong. Penn State's ranked number 3. Ohio State is ranked number 4. We got a top 4 matchup. Penn State. The biggest question coming into this game for the Nittany Lions is Drew Allar, starting quarterback. Is he going to play? Rumors are swirling right now that it's going to be a game time decision for Drew Allar. And look, he has been really good this year, especially compared to last year and what he gave them at the quarterback position a year ago. And it didn't really help them against Ohio State last year, okay? Lackluster performance from Drew Allar in this Ohio State game last year. He was going to need a big step up against this Buckeye defense to give Penn State a chance to win this weekend, and he may not even play. And you're thinking, the whole world is crumbling if you're a Nittany Lion fan. Or if you're a Nittany Lion kind of fair weather fan, you don't really know the ins and outs of the program. You're thinking, well, sky is falling. How is this only 4 points? How are we only underdogs by 4 points if our quarterback may not play? How is that even possible? Well, let me, 2 words for you. Now 2 words for you. Beau Pribula. And I know I said that 2 times, so it technically was 4 words, but you get the point. Beau Pribula is the backup quarterback for Penn State. He is fun. That's the word I would use to describe Beau Pribula. Also, his name, say it 25 times fast. It's awesome to say as well. Beau Pribula. And it's kind of hard to say, but it's fun to say. And he's fun to watch. He can run around a little bit, something Drew Allar isn't the best at. Drew Allar's kind of a 6'12" statue back there that can throw deep ball. Beau Pribula is like a little rascal running around back there with his head cut off. That's what he looks like. But he runs around with his head cut off, and he knows what he's doing. You know how snakes, you chop their head off, and they still have a little bit of movement, and they still kind of know what they're doing. That's a little bit like Beau Pribula. He runs around back there. He can get it done with his legs. He can get it done with his arm. He's a nice little quarterback. I wouldn't say the sky's falling if I'm Penn State right now. And in fact, I think, and some of you may think I'm crazy, but I have known to be crazy sometimes, and it has known to sometimes be good, be a good thing. I think Beau Pribula I think he gives Penn State a better chance of winning this game this weekend. And he may not even play. We don't know who's going to start for Penn State. But I think Beau Pribula, with what he can do with his legs, gives Penn State a better chance against Ohio State. He gives them a better chance. If you present the threat of a running quarterback, that opens things up tremendously for Penn State. And I think that will help them win this football game. Now, if Drew Allar starts, we got to look at it a whole different way. They're going to pound the rock, and they're going to pound the rock with their 2 star running backs. That's the game plan for Penn State. Now, I think that's going to be the game plan either way, but it gives you a third element with Beau Pribula because you have now 3 guys you've got to worry about running the rock. Drew Allar, only 2 guys. Beau Pribula, 3 guys you got to worry about. Okay, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the numbers for this game. Ohio State, number 11 scoring offense in the country. Penn State, they have the number 8 scoring defense. The strength of that defense for Penn State is that secondary. Seems like year in and year out, they just have 2 or 3 guys back there that are going to be top 3 round draft pick in the NFL. You got to learn their names, okay? They're really good on the back end. However, they're going up against by far, their best offensive wide receiver grouping that they're going to face this year with the studs, Emeka Egbuka. I blinked on his name. Jeremiah Smith. There it is, right there. Sometimes you just have a brain time lapse, okay, where You're thinking his name for 5 minutes. Boom, you forget you have to say it, and boom, you forget about it. But Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, everyone else in company there for Ohio State, they're really good. Everybody knows this. I don't have anything revolutionary to say about them. But if I'm Ohio State, force feed Jeremiah Smith. Force feed him and see if Penn State can stop him. Because so far this year, nobody has stopped him, and Ohio State really hasn't tried to force feed him. I would be forcing the football to number 4. Okay? That's Jeremiah Smith. I remember his number right off the top of my head, but I couldn't remember his name. Unbelievable. Force feed Jeremiah Smith the football if you're Ohio State. Test that secondary for Penn State. Now, Penn State's offense, a little lackluster sometimes. Now, Andy Kotelnicki, new offensive coordinator, he's done some nice things. I have a feeling he is going to open the playbook. The kitchen sink is coming out for this game. This is their game. This is their game. This is Penn State's Super Bowl this year. Ohio State already had one a couple weeks ago against Oregon. They got another one this weekend against Penn State. Penn State only has one this year. This is it. This is their biggest game. If they win this one, it's pretty much smooth sailing for the Penn State Nittany Lions, okay? Andy Kotelnicki, I have a feeling he's going to do some wild stuff in this football game. Watch out for that offensively for Penn State. Now, one thing I keep coming back to for Ohio State is the penalties. They're really good. They are really good at not getting penalties. 7th in the country in penalties per game. That means they're not committing a lot. So you would think 7th in the country in penalties per game. That means they're at the top. They have a lot of penalties. But it's reverse. They don't have a lot of penalties per game. They are really good at that. Discipline travels, and they're going to need it this weekend in Happy Valley. Okay, now, you would think all of those things I just said, quarterback, question mark for Penn State. You're thinking, Ian, you're going to Ohio State. You're going to Ohio State. But if you know how this works, I go with the gut. And the gut tells me everything I need to know before I look at any numbers, before I have any preconceived notions. Boom, I look at the line. I go, Penn State. And that's what the gut tells me. The gut told me Penn State +4 is the play this weekend. That's what we're going to roll with. That is what we're going to roll with. Next game up, Florida at Georgia. It's neutral site game. But Georgia is the home team for this week. -16.5 for the Bulldogs. Let me take a sip. Look, they're both coming off a bye. You're even there. And you wouldn't think, you're thinking, isn't Florida 4-3? Had Georgia 6-1? They took it to the number 1 team in country in Texas a couple weeks ago. How are they only favored by a little over 2 touchdowns? You would think this may maybe be a 3.5 touchdown type of a game. You would be wrong. Florida has talent. And you're thinking back to last year, you think this game was, I believe, a 9.5 point spread maybe last year, and Georgia ran them out of the building in the first 5 minutes of that football game. It was a massacre last year for the Florida Gators. Is it going to be a massacre this year? Probably not. I think Florida's a much better football team than they were last year. And you're thinking, yeah, they're 4-3. They've lost to 3 top 10 teams, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2, 3. They've lost to 3 top 10 teams. Miami, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. Those are their 3 losses. That's it. And they took Tennessee to the wire. Probably should have won that game. I love using the word should have. Florida Gators are not to be messed with, ladies and gentlemen. They are not to be messed with. And I know Kirby Smart is telling his guys over there in Athens, Georgia, hey, this team right here, this record, no. They're 7-0. We're playing an undefeated football team. And he's convincing the entire roster in Athens, Georgia, that no one thinks Georgia's going to win this football game. Kirby Smart has a weird way of hypnotizing. He might hypnotize his players. And that might be why they get into trouble while they're driving the car, speeding down every which way. Because they might be hypnotized. Nobody's looked into that theory. That might be the theory, because he sometimes convinces his players they're never going to win a football game. I don't know how he does it. They have the most talented roster in America, but he does it, and he's probably doing it this weekend. So I would expect Georgia to come out firing on all cylinders. Now, have they been firing on all cylinders lately? No, they have not, especially offensively. Carson Beck throwing it to the other team every 5 seconds. They had a bye week. I would assume they used that bye week to say, hey, Carson Beck, we got to settle down a little bit, my guy. You're a really good quarterback. The issue right now is you think you can throw it to the other team. That actually hurts us. That is actually no good, Carson. And they're having to give him a lesson on how to play quarterback, okay? They just got a refresher. Don't throw it to the other team, Carson. And he's saying, you're right, coach. That's on me. That is on me. I will no longer do that going forward. And if he doesn't, they're not going to win this football game. They are going to win this football game by more than 16.5. If Georgia doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to win by more than 16 and a half. Now, that's my stipulation. If they turn the ball over, Florida has a chance. Florida has a chance. No turnovers. I don't really see a way for Florida to get into this football game just based on coaching and that defense for Georgia, because the defense for Georgia hasn't gone anywhere. The defense for Georgia is still the defense for Georgia. Let me make that clear. That is still a Kirby Smart defense, okay? So Florida's going to have to force some turnovers to get some extra possessions in this game to cover this 16 and a half and get back in this football game. Now, can Florida do that? Let's look at their defense. Number 65 scoring defense in the country. Not great. Not great. They're a little better forcing turnovers. They've done that in the past few games that they've played. And the offense is starting to go on the up and up. They're starting to climb that ladder with DJ Lagway, true freshman quarterback, at the helm, okay? And he throws one of the prettiest deep balls I have ever seen with my eyes right here. These two beauties right here, one of the best deep balls I've ever seen. And he throws it effortlessly. They're going to have to hit on a couple of those. So those are the keys for Florida right there. Hit on a couple deep balls, force a couple turnovers, get some extra possessions. And if they don't have any turnovers, the other one would be special teams touchdown. Okay, but those are the keys. You got to have some big explosive plays, and you're going to have to do some abnormal things to win this football game if you're a Florida Gator. Georgia, you're just going to have to do what you do. You're just going to have to be a Georgia Bulldog. Okay, you're going to play really good defense, and you're going to play sound offense. That's all you need to do if you're Georgia, and you're going to win, and you should win handedly, quite frankly. Now, all of that should lead you to believe, Ian, you're going to pick Georgia minus the 16 and a half, aren't you? No, I'm not. Boom. I saw this line and the gut started getting this weird feeling. I was like, whoa. What is that? What is that? Oh, it's Florida plus 16 and a half. That's what we're rolling with, ladies and gentlemen. Next game up, Minnesota at Illinois. Now, some of you are thinking, isn't Minnesota favored in this game? They are now. But when I did this, I got Illinois minus 1.5, and the gut said, wrong team's favored. Boom. Give me the Minnesota Golden Gophers, elite mascot, ladies and gentlemen, elite mascot. Give me the Golden Gophers plus 1.5. Air Force, Army, no brainer. Army minus 24 all day, every day. Air Force, look, you're our weakest branch in the military right now. I think that is clear as day. We got to start getting those birds firing on all cylinders because the ground, the Army attack is firing right now, and they're really good. So give me Army minus 24. Pitt at SMU. Let me take a sip here. This might be game of the weekend. I say game of the weekend all the time because I love college football, and I love watching college football. Pitt at SMU, minus 7.5 for SMU. You would think one of these teams is favored. I'm going to give you a guess as to which team is favored, and if you don't keep up with it as much as I do, which is watch every single game, you would think, well, the team that's favored by 7.5, they're the undefeated team, right? Right? No, they're not the undefeated team, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually Pitt. They're undefeated. Now, SMU, they only have the one loss, and it was by 3 points to another undefeated team, the BYU Cougars. So I'm not going to do a full in-depth one. This is the last game of the weekend, 8 o'clock on ACC Network. Tragedy this isn't on ESPN. Shame on you, ESPN. You've got to get that fixed, and maybe they'll flex it to ESPN. I don't know how that works, but they have to because this is going to be a really fun football game to watch. However, the gut has told me Pitt's streak of winning football games comes to an end. Give me the Ponies minus 7.5 to win this football game. Next game up, Ole Miss minus 6.5 at Arkansas. I like Ole Miss, and I like them to cover the 6.5. Now, if you were going confidence meter on the gut, this is lower on the board than some of these other games. But the gut told me Ole Miss minus 6.5. Kansas State minus 13 at Houston. Houston, terrible football team. Give me Kansas State minus 13. San Diego State at Boise State. It's Boise State minus 23.5 all day. I like Ashton Jeanty to rush for over 250 yards. Book that. Indiana minus 7 at Michigan State. Curtis Rourke, quarterback for Indiana. He might play this weekend after being out last week. Doesn't matter who their quarterback is. I'm taking Indiana minus 7. Really good team. Number 4 in the what if poll. Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State coming off of a bye. Texas Tech is not coming off of a bye. I like Iowa State minus 14.5. Again, Iowa State's probably going to start a little slow. That's what they do. That's been their MO all year. It's going to bite them eventually. I don't think it's going to bite them against Texas Tech. Give me Iowa State minus 14.5. Louisville at Clemson. A few weeks ago, this looked like Clemson's hardest test. I'm not sure if it's Clemson's hardest test at this point. Give me Clemson minus 11 coming off that bye. Texas A&M minus 2.5 at South Carolina. It's already circled up there because the gut feeling was so strong on this one. I didn't even want to hide it from you guys. However, I'll give you some of the numbers here. I'll give you some of the storylines for this football game. Night game, ESPN, nationally broadcast. The stadium atmosphere for South Carolina this weekend is going to be second to none. Maybe Penn State. Maybe Penn State. If Penn State was a night game, I would say definitely that one, but it's going to be right up there. This atmosphere and the Penn State, Ohio State atmosphere, neck and neck in my opinion, because South Carolina's got the number one team in the SEC coming to town. By SEC rankings, not the AP poll. You got the number one team in the SEC coming to town. You're going to be fired up to play some football. You're coming off of a bye. Texas A&M is coming off of a dogfight against LSU at home. Advantage South Carolina, or maybe advantage Texas A&M. If the momentum from that game, and I'm a believer in momentum, strong believer in momentum. You can chalk it up right here. Boom. Ian believes in momentum, and put it on a t-shirt. I don't care. Momentum is real. Texas A&M minus 2.5. Is the momentum big enough to carry it over in a hostile environment in South Carolina? Columbia, South Carolina. 2 Columbias in the SEC, by the way. Missouri, trash. Columbia, South Carolina, not trash. I haven't been to either. I'm just saying, football team-wise, that's where they're at right now. Look, Mike Elko, that is, head coach for Texas A&M. What he has done for Texas A&M this year, the Aggies, is he's definitely in the running for Coach of the Year. They've reeled off 7 straight wins since the loss against Notre Dame, and they're absolutely on fire right now, ladies and gentlemen. However, you're going against a team that's on a bye, coming off a bye, a team that rushes the passer second to none in the entire country. Yeah, South Carolina, number 1 in the country in sacks this year. Texas A&M, they've struggled a little bit in pass protection, 45th in the country in giving up sacks this year. So you're gonna have to figure something out. And I think Marcel Reed being the quarterback for Texas A&M has not been announced yet, but I think it's a no-brainer. If I'm Mike Elko, you're going with Marcel Reed. You're going with the guy that won the game for you against LSU. You're going with that guy. And I think having that run threat is going to neutralize some of this pass rush for South Carolina. That's just what I would think. That's what the gut is telling me. That's partially why the gut told me Texas A&M minus 2.5. And we already threw the circle up there. Partially why. The other part of partially is that South Carolina, they have one of the worst offensive lines in the country. Second to, I believe, Oklahoma in giving up sacks this year. Second to last. And Texas A&M, one of the best defensive lines in the country. Scourton, whatever you call it. I'm not sure anybody really knows how to pronounce his name. An edge guy there for Texas A&M, one of the best in the country, projected top 10 pick. He's going to have a field day, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to live in the backfield against South Carolina. South Carolina is going to have to figure out a way to stop that guy. I'm not sure they're going to be able to. And that's why the gut told me Texas A&M minus 2.5. But I think this game is going to be really close unless Texas A&M forces a buku of turnovers, which South Carolina is prone to. If South Carolina holds on to the football, they have a chance. If they don't, it's over, and probably relatively quickly. Next game up, Kentucky, Tennessee. It's Tennessee minus 16 all day, every day. Duke, Miami. You would think Duke, only 2 losses. They almost beat SMU last week. No, give me Miami minus 20. I think they put a good defensive performance together for once this weekend. Oregon minus 14.5 at Michigan all day. Oregon. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Oregon is the number 1 team in the country. We're picking Oregon minus 14.5. Now, hopefully, we have a better week than we did last week. I got a feeling that we will. It's hard to go 4-11. So I think we're going to bounce back. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, subscribe down below. Comment down below. Ian, these picks are incredible. You're going to be right on all of them. And I will say thank you. I know. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the Week 10 recap video coming out later in the week after all the games conclude. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Bye.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he's 40, 45, 50, 40,